Well, I was like a lot of us. I was working in corporate. I was selling advertising for a long time, and I always wanted to have my own business and was looking for a change. And I actually went to the SCORE, which is part of the SBA. They have those SCORE mentors, and I just told them that I wanted to have my own business and didn't really have an idea of what it was. And so they started sort of sent me down the path of looking at franchises. And so I looked at it, evaluated a ton of those things, and they seem good, but it's like you're paying a lot of money to start a business with no revenue. And I really wasn't in a position to go 2, 3 years without any income. I don't know how many of us are. And so then I just remembered a conversation I had with a friend of mine prior to this, where when he started his own business, he said if he could do it all over again, he would have bought an existing business, and he's actually continued to do that. So that sort of sparked something in me, and I like signed up for this newsletter, this Biz Buy Sell newsletter, and I would get these emails every day for all these different businesses for sale, and they're all crappy junk businesses like pizza parlors, laundromats, things that people have passed on 100 times. But I did find one that was presented in a way where they talked about the revenue of the company, the financing you need to get it, how much you'd expect to make if considering everything ran as it was, how much you could potentially make in your first year, including paying back your loan. And so then I engaged with the broker for that business, and that particular business wasn't for me, but it really got me into looking and evaluating a lot of different businesses. And I sort of, I have a background in buying rental properties, and it was really just kind of taking a look at what my cash outlay would be, what my return could be on these businesses. I sort of took, looked at it with that methodology. And I just kept looking until, I found something. The real thing is finding there are good brokers out there that can be very helpful. And there's some not so great brokers out there. And so it's a matter of really finding the right person who can connect you, especially if you're open to the different types of businesses that you're willing to get involved with, as opposed to, hey, you know what, I only want to buy like a clean out type of business or something like that. Then you may not need a broker. You can kind of find those yourselves. But I had criteria that were more financial that I was looking for. So it's really helpful to have a broker.
And where did you find it? Was it the broker that helped you find it? And tell us a little bit about your broker.
Yeah, I used this guy, Michael Meyer, at the Benjamin Ross Group in Pennsylvania. He's been excellent. And it was he would basically he'd get these, they would go out there and do the work and find these companies. And what they would do is they put together a pro forma on the company. You'd get they would put together these pro formas of the company, outline the company, the history of the company, and give you kind of like a 30,000-foot view on it. You even get into their finances and what their expenses, all that kinds of stuff. And you even see like their tax returns for the past few years. And so these people were, so this broker was very detailed, really laid it out, and they were able to actually even secure financing for the company through the SBA. And so they really did a lot of the legwork for you to make it as easy as possible for you to evaluate it and get involved in the business.
Sounds like financials were a big part. What else were you looking for in the business, and what things you look out for?
Yeah, what I really looked for was a diversity I look for consistency in the company. Want to see how they did over the revenue for the past, however far you go back. Like I went back 10 years. And I looked at the diversity of the client base. I didn't want to get involved with something where it was 90% of the business came from 2 or 3 accounts, and you had one big account that basically drove the whole thing and everything else filled in the gaps. What I liked about the business I saw was that every year there's a new number one. I mean, of course, you're going to have your top 10 accounts, you're going to have your big guys there, but you weren't. If one company went away, your business wasn't over. And so I really looked at that. I looked at consistency. So what I really saw when I evaluated this business was that they kept their accounts. They didn't lose accounts, and they had a lot of repeat business. And like I said, there was nobody there that was too dominant of an account that if they left, you'd be in big trouble. I also looked for, you know, how the owner, honestly, how the owner looked. What attracted me to the business aside from the financials was the owner ran it like a business where it worked when he wasn't there. He was able to play golf with as much as he wanted. He still worked at nights or whatever, but he didn't have to be there for stuff to work. And so he really had a good team in place of long-term employees who've been there for a long time, who knew what they were doing. And he was able to run it in that way, so that you're not one of those entrepreneurs or business owners where you're working 24/7. You don't get you don't get your weekends off, and you're a slave to the business. So that was a big thing that I looked for, because I wasn't looking to buy myself a job, and what you learn very quickly is the difference between a practice and a business. A practice is something where if you don't work, you're a dentist, you're a doctor, you can't fix teeth, you're not getting paid. A business is where you have other people doing that stuff for you. And this fell into that category. And so that's a big reason, one of the main factors of why, considering all the numbers were right, of why I chose this company.
Gotcha. And as an accountant, I know due diligence is a critical part of this whole evaluation. Did you use an accountant, and how did
Yeah, I used an accountant, I used an attorney. You really have to have a team. You might think you're good at numbers because you can fill in your QuickBooks and keep track of stuff or whatever. You really need to have a trained set of eyes to look at these things. So yeah, I had an accountant, I had an attorney to go through everything and help me through this way. There's no way I would have been able to do it. I would have been able to do that without them. I mean, I was selling advertising before this. So, while, I'm able to do, I've got rental properties and stuff like that. So I could do that kind of basic stuff and evaluate whether something's a good deal or not. There's a lot more moving parts in a company. So yeah, I definitely need to have a good team.
Now, a question on that, a follow-up question on that was, now your accountant was separate from their accountant. Which accountant did you stay with? Yours or the one that
Mine.
They're with the previous history with the business?
No, I went with mine. Thankfully the company has been run entirely on QuickBooks. Everything we do is through QuickBooks, so everything's available with just a click. And so all of our estimating, all of our invoicing, everything is all done through QuickBooks. So it was very simple for my accountant to take over and handle that. So yeah, I used mine. And so far so good. My accountant did get bought up by another accounting group, which I may be making a change. We'll see.
Mm-hmm.
I think my guy's kind of on his way out towards retirement.
Mm-hmm.
So not his fault. He's a great accountant. I really like his guidance. But yeah. So yeah, I definitely use my own accountant.
Understood. As far as employees, did you have any exposure to them prior to the acquisition, and how did you get to?
No, you couldn't, because it's like you don't want to tell the team, hey guys, we're for sale.
Right.
And you don't know who the new owner is, and so maybe you might want to get your resumes out there, because the one thing you learn pretty quickly is that your employees are your business. When you've got a business like that. I mean, I'm not all of a sudden a door and hardware expert. And so you really need those folks. So I put a lot of effort in making sure that that these guys would be happy. I came in, I gave the top guy a raise, and to basically let everybody know that I bought the company because I like the way the company's was run, and I'm not looking to make any changes. I think that these guys are all valuable, and I just want to let them know that I'm in there with them. So. I spent a lot of time and energy making sure that they felt comfortable with me. I got an idea of what they were like, and I try to stay out of the way. Knock on wood, everybody stayed with me. It's been a little bit over 2 years. I haven't lost anybody. I've tried to hire a bunch of new guys and a bunch of young kids, and they've stunk. They've had to go. But yeah. But I'm very fortunate that it's a good crew, and I made it major priority to make sure that they stayed and they were happy. And, you know, I kept up with bonuses and everything like that. I was going to change anything that was going to affect them in a negative way.
Now that you've been through this once, if you were going to buy a business again, what would you do differently in that process that you've kind of went through?
In this instance, I have to say I wouldn't do anything differently as far as buying this company. I think, you know, I definitely have made plenty of mistakes, you know, running it. I mean, nothing that's hurt the business, but is sort of, I thought I was gonna, because I have a background in sales, I really thought that I was gonna be able to bang the phones and stir up a bunch of business and really and just really blow it out. And you know, I've had some success with it. Don't get me wrong. It's that, but it's really, you're kissing a ton of frogs trying to like develop relationships with people, because like, you know, like it's not like everybody. It's not like I go to a general contractor and tell them, you know, I'm a door and hardware, you know, with supplier, and like, oh, I've never heard of it. I've never bought doors before. So a lot of people have their guy. Or maybe they might not be happy with it, but you got to find it. And then, so it's really just finding the right type of customer you want to work with. And so that's taken some time. So I really thought that I was going to be able to come in and sort of flip a switch, because the guy that I bought the company from, they never did any outside sales. They never picked up the phone one time to call somebody they didn't know. All the business that we get is all incoming business. And I was like, oh my God, because I've never had that before. I've never had, you know, that type of thing before. And so I thought I was going to be able to change that, or add to it. I didn't want to change it. I just wanted to, you know, add to it. And, you know, I brought it, like there's been, you know, some significant stuff I've been able to bring in, but wasn't as quick as I thought. So it's different. And also it's such a technical and detailed sale, or what we do, that it's taken a lot of learning. I mean, I'm learning something new every day, because it's like, before, you know, you're selling advertising. It's not like it's a hard thing, right? So I'm selling somebody a you know, 20 doors and frames. They've all got to fit in the openings they've got. They've all got to work a certain way. So if something doesn't fit right, there's a problem, you know, as opposed to like, hey, you know, I got this, you know, 3 people clicked on this banner. That wasn't that great. Who cares? You know, it's just different. So yeah, so there's been some, you know, some pains in that. But you know, all things being considered, I could not have asked for a better experience so far.
So, and obviously the strengths were your sales piece that you were bringing to the table. What areas have you been able to improve in the business thus far?
I would say I've been able to, like, I would say improve like our communication with our customers, really putting making sure nothing kind of slips through the cracks. I got the feeling that prior, because the owner was only there, he'd come in maybe once or twice a week, that there would be a few things where you'd have some, like, you know, small, like we always take care of the bigger guys, but some of the smaller guys would sort of get maybe some things that slip through the cracks here and there. But you know, so I've put a big stop to that. But you know, there wasn't much that was broken. You know, I think what I've been able to do is I have brought in, you know, some good new accounts that have added to us and that have helped us, as like some other big projects we've had have started to wind down a little bit.
And then what areas do you help to improve in the future, or what else would you want to share with people?
In the future, you know, I think I would like to improve our process a little bit. You know, as we grow, I definitely see I need a role for like a project manager to come in. So I think that could help out a lot, because right now I've got a director of operations who manages the technicians. So basically all the jobs kind of go through this person, and he makes sure everything's organized so that our techs get everything squared away, either deliver it, prep the jobs, or what have you. But you know, we're also ordering all the materials for the job. I think having maybe a second set of eyes in there to do that could be very helpful. And I just need, I'd like to get a little more revenue in there to add to that head count, because it's not a direct, it's not really a direct revenue generating thing. It's sort of like helps ease the operations. The other thing I think is I wouldn't mind seeing maybe acquiring a smaller competitor. I think that could be something that could help, just help us scale a little bit faster. And and I think just maybe get a little extra expertise from that, bring in some new accounts. I think that could be a key thing. I went through this Goldman Sachs 10,000 small business training course, and that was one of my growth options was to buy another company. And then I graduated and COVID hit, and so everybody's been really tight, and so I've been a little bit hesitant to make that move. But I think that could be something that would be beneficial in the future. Maybe do that. And I think another thing I could do to help the company would be I've got right now I've got an SBA loan. Is figuring out a better way to finance the company.
Great. Excellent. Anyone have any questions for Jonas?
How many employees do you have, Jonas?
Excuse me?
How many employees do you have?
I have 6.
6, okay. And how many did you buy the company with? Was it the same?
Yeah, it was the same. Yeah, well, actually, there was one. I kept the owner stayed on with me to handle sales for a couple of big accounts, and so yeah. So
And
same.
And do you have like revenue goals, like 1 year, 3 year, 5 year plan and stuff?
Yeah. When from the business at the end of 2018, we did, well, in 2017, it was like, so we've grown about 20% from between 2017 to 2019. I'm giving some of that back this year. So it's not a straightforward line.
Sure.
But not too bad. We're still going to come up ahead of, I think we're going to come up ahead of where the 2017, 2018 numbers were. But yeah, I mean, I would like to see this grow. I do have targets.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Cool. Very interesting.
Thanks.
So I was gonna don't really have a question, but a couple comments was with your broker, it sounds like with real estate, it's all about finding the right realtor that works with you and good synergy and that sort of thing. So that was kind of one thing. And the other thing was when you're talking about going in and looking at specific businesses and different aspects and characteristics, it was really kind of the first time I thought was like, oh, wow, it's like you can literally shop for here's what I want in the business and do that, as opposed to, when you go for a job, it's like, okay, here's what you're doing. Or even as a business owner, it's like, okay, yeah, here are the things that I really love to do. And I kind of got to do these things, but it's not really what I want. But, it's kind of, you start with a fresh slate and you go, this is what I want, and then go shopping for it.
Yeah. I mean,
I'm sure there's things that you don't enjoy as much as others, but it's right?
Yeah, it's not a day. Every day isn't a day at the beach. I'm not like making my own reality every day. It's
Sure.
you still go in. You've got your stuff you've got to handle. I put stuff on myself. To do trying to get I feel like my guys are working at capacity, right? So if I'm trying to go after new customers or like that, I'll do the bids myself. I'm not going to ask someone else to do it. I try, and it helps me to learn. And also, about the real estate thing is like what I found is I would go look at a couple of these businesses. And I would, have a meeting with the owner, with the broker, and then I would, okay, let me think about it because it's a major purchase, and I'd think about it overnight. I was like, I'm interested. I want to learn a little more. Oh, sorry, someone already made an offer on the company, right? So you start realizing these things go pretty quickly, and there are people out there that just buy businesses, So there's a guy that might have like 4 or 5 different little small businesses that they run, and so I almost treated my broker like a real estate broker, where I was like, all right, I want to get the back pocket deal before it hits the street, and so I would reach out to him every month, Hey, anything new in my price range, anything you got, just really try to stay top of mind. And so that's how I was able to have the first meeting for this business that I want to buy. And it was like, I felt like I really had to work these guys a little bit to let them know that, I'm for real, I'm legit, and I'm in a position to do it. And so, because it turns out that the next person that met with the owner of the company I bought, he made an offer. And it was like, these things just, if it's a good business, they just go.
Mhm.
And so I wanted to make sure that I was in a position to make that decision. I also learned too, is like, if you're interested in it, you make that offer immediately and lock it up. And then if, while you're going through due diligence, something sketchy and you want to back out, you back out. Who cares? But at least it was your decision.
Mhm. Did you come across any businesses where you said, oh my gosh, no, that is completely out of my wheelhouse? I know nothing about molecular biology.
Yeah, I mean, what I think, like, so that's a good point. A lot of these businesses that are sellable, right? There's an increase in value in a company if you don't really need a lot of industry knowledge to take it over, right? So that's why it's like, you're gonna sell a medical practice, there's not that much of a premium on it because there's only so many people who can buy it, right? If you're gonna like a molecular biology, if you need to be a molecular biologist to run this thing, there's a very small pool of people that can buy it. So there may not be, a lot of value there. So these businesses are set up so that a person with no industry experience can buy it. I learned pretty quickly that having having a team of people with industry experience is extremely beneficial. That's why, I was okay with going with spending the extra money to keep the previous owner on to handle sales. I was like, you know what? I'd rather get a smaller percentage of revenue than all or nothing. Because if you mess up jobs in some of these bigger guys, you're out. So I figured keep that consistency going. And as I build up my skills and know what I'm doing, then, if something changes, I'm in a better position to take over that or hire, ideally what I want to do is I want to replace myself and then, sort of have just weekly reports be done.
Mhm.
Hopefully that can happen at some point.
Yeah. Cool.
And I was going to ask you if you would use a broker again, but it sounds like you found that very worthwhile and you would use a broker.
Yeah, without a doubt. I mean, I've got this one business in mind that I drive by all the time. I think about buying, and I think that target them as somebody I would like to start the discussion of buying. So in that case, I wouldn't use a broker. But yeah, absolutely. Especially if you haven't done something like this before, you definitely have it. I mean, you're paying retail. It's not like you're getting a deal off the street. But at the end of the day, it's got to appraise. It's like you're getting a large loan from a bank. They do their due diligence. It's the SBA that's going through it. So you got a lot of eyes checking on to make sure you're not buying a pile of funk. But having a broker is very helpful because otherwise, what are you going to do? Are you going to start calling up every little business you see? Hey, you want to sell your company? It's a lot different. It's a lot different. So yeah, I highly recommend a broker, and I highly recommend a good broker. So I talked to a number of them, and there's varying degrees of professionalism.
How many months did it take you before you found Access Commercial Door?
The whole process between starting to looking at franchises and finally coming up on this is about 2 years.
Wow.
And it was like, it was something I'd do all the time. Not all the. I mean, I'd be engaged in it, reading, like evaluating stuff, looking at stuff, a lot. And it just came one of those things where it becomes a goal, something you want to do, and you decide, you put not like a deadline on it, but something that you want to get done. You're personally and emotionally invested in it. And so you just keep looking. It wasn't like I was, there's nothing out there. Oh, if I don't get this business, it's over. It wasn't like I'd get emotionally invested in that company, but I just wanted to. It was something I really wanted to do because like all of us, we're all entrepreneurs here. Yeah, I was working in corporate, and I started thinking like, oh my God, what happens if something happens to this gig, which was a great gig, I don't want to interview for another job. Sounds awful. You know?